Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on June the 10th of 2026. I'm Nick, this is Quinn. I'm doing a newscaster voice for some reason. How are you doing, Quinn?
Our top news story today, manga. What is it? Where does it come from? How is it indoctrinating our children?
That's got to have been a segment at least 7 times in like American local news stations.
I'm trying to think what would be the manga they would demonize, because it has to be something they would like it would have to be something like Full Metal Alchemist, where they're like, we only read like the first volume, but there's some weird stuff with the girl and a dog, and they're doing satanic rituals, because that's how they would read alchemy.
Pokemon and Dragon Ball were both controversial when we were kids because of that exact whole, like, not actually understanding like anything about the source material and stuff, and just like writing off as like, oh, the Asians are trying to poison our children's minds, and so that, yeah, people who didn't actually like do anything beyond like check out like the commercials that were advertising the show. There are some clips out there that you can find from like newspapers that were, reporting on them, and they're kind of hilarious in hindsight. In terms of just like how inaccurate they are.
Oh, yeah.
And how weirdly accurate some very specific details are. So it's like, okay, so clearly they watched one episode because they got that detail dead on.
They understand that James from Pokemon dresses like a woman a lot.
And it's like, wow, they got like the one, that one banned episode. That was weird.
They got the one that escaped. In my experience, it was church bulletins was where this mostly happened. There was a lot of like, I remember we had to get rid of Crazy Bones because they were considered demonic.
Crazy Bones. Weren't those the ones that you would like flick them?
Yeah, the idea is you would flick them, basically marbles, but with like designs and
weird shapes
and favorable physics for some of them. Like there were some where you're like, yeah, this thing's a beast, it won't fall down or whatever.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, I remember my cousin having some of those, but I never got into any of those collectibles. So whenever anything got banned because it was like it encourages gambling, I was like, wait, you can get other people's stuff if you play with these? I didn't know that.
It sounds so cool. I wish I was all over that.
But this is not a gambling podcast. In general, I find that while gambling tends to be kind of okay, it inevitably leads to power imbalances and bad stuff, and people losing their life savings because of desperation. So I don't really like it.
And you'll have to stay tuned to listen to our extra podcast, Weekly Gambling Recap, that I host without Nick, where we're sponsored by DraftKings. And we just kind of make bets on things. Yeah. I mean, come on. Everyone's sponsored by DraftKings eventually.
It's kind of terrifying. Yeah. I remember there was a I want to say like a Falcons player several years ago who got in a lot of trouble for gambling on NFL games while he was like out injured and stuff. And he wrote this article that was like very, very intense about his experience, which was, about like he was like recovering from injury. So he felt like, he was alone and depressed and stuff. And he was just like looking for something to do and looking for a way to like still feel connected to, this game that gave him like his life's purpose and stuff that he couldn't work towards while he was out with injury. But, he pointed out the thing of like, we're used to like advertise DraftKings all the time, but I'm not allowed to bet on stuff. What's up with that?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of double standard with that. I don't want to get too far into this because we're about to be a manga podcast for like 2 hours. So, we're going to settle in on that. But there is, as you mentioned, a disturbing amount of places that DraftKings is allowed to advertise at where you're just like, you understand that gambling problems, who am I talking about? It's the same country that was like, smoking is cool. Fred Flintstone does it. Like, just do it, idiot.
It's really bad when like half the advertisements for them you see now include a thing of like, if you have a gambling problem, there is a. It's like, well, then stop advertising.
It's wild because gambling has been somewhat legal in PA for a decent bit now. So we've had gambling
Here too,
ads.
yeah.
And all of them do have to end with a little blurb that's like, gambling problem, please call 448, stop gambling or whatever, the phone number is. So yeah, it's our new vice that is heavily advertised to everyone.
Good job, everybody. Anyway, with that being said, it's time for Ichi the Witch. 85th Hunt. Hate, hate, hate you!
Now, Nick, when you opened it, did you get the super rare version of Ichi the Witch that came out this week? There's a version where Fujimine's tie is purple, and I spent $700 and I got it. No.
I was like, what?
I was just trying to connect our two topics there.
Gotcha. Oh, you pulled the super rare from the gacha opening. How weird would that be? Like every time that you open Shonen Jump, you have a chance for there to be a cosmetic difference for your chapter experience.
Look, I don't doubt that there's somebody out there who has pitched that at a board meeting.
They got to find some way to keep the sales up.
Yeah.
Very cool color image of Fujimine in this one. She's making a very weird gesture with her fingers. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, she's like taking aim, but in the way that like nobody takes aim.
What are you talking about, Nick? Diamond for your hymen, I guess. I don't know.
Jesus. So Fujimine has used her ability to brainwash almost everybody that was gathered around trying to stop her, except for Chun, whom she suspects was around her at some point in the past. So yeah, she sics Descaris on Chun, who goes after him with Lazud. Meanwhile, Fujimine is just kind of like jumps like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy style into Ichi's arms, and he just says, "Should I do something?" And she says, "No, you're my hug pillow, so you stay here." Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So everyone else is kind of standing around until Fujimine actually like tells them to do stuff, which includes cheering Descaris on, which Descaris thinks is a little bit weird because she's encouraging them to say, kill him, kill him. And Descaris is like, I mean, do I really need to do that? I could just like knock him out. And Fujimane's like, no. You got to kill him. Also, let's go and find Madoka and Mirsum, the prophecy magic. Let's kill them too. Because Amadora got us in here. Everyone's all super distracted and stuff, so I'm just going to take advantage of this good situation. I'm the kind of girl who, if I get a taste of something, I just got to devour it down to the last bite. Which I'm sure won't lead to disturbing imagery later. I've got a good feeling that it's just going to be like, she'll just eat chocolate or something.
Yeah. Or maybe bugs.
Eating bugs. It's fine. Yeah. Descaris seems a little bit hesitant, but she starts to obey. But then her other hand just instinctively darts across her body and kind of pauses her sword hand. And she seems to realize that something is wrong with her. So Fujimine goes to do something, and the Toxiterror magic's tendril seems to go for her again. But then a shield appears around Descaris as some rock flies at her. And Chun's not down for the count. And he analyzes the situation and says that Fujimine is using an airborne toxin to cast a mind control spell. He says it's nothing so quaint as brainwashing. He says whoever is caught in it becomes convinced that you are someone important to them. What you're doing is vanquishing their true memories. And we get this very cool 1.5-page splash image of Fujimine with like her hair cast out like tendrils separating the different images of seemingly whom she has cast herself as in all of her current targets' memories. And there's some nice little details here because we see that like, oh, it seems like she's Richiya for Gokuraku. She's replaced herself for Minakata and Ichi in each other's memories. It looks like she is Komugi's sister, I think. And she is Monegold's lover. That's most likely her butler person. There's also, however, it looks like she's someone who is like some from like Zaira's like student days or something like that that we don't know about yet. And importantly, she is not Descaris's brother, Libro. She's someone else with the two of them. And there were some theories being thrown around in our Discord about that maybe she knew that she could not replace Libro in the memory because it's very important to Descarous's persona that, her brother's dead. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
an important part of it. So she couldn't just cast herself as a dead person in her mind.
It would break reality too much for Descarous.
So, June says it must be actually really difficult for you to control this many people at once, especially because they're all skilled and powerful people. They're all beginning to resist you, which means that your spell is not all powerful. And once you cast on someone, they probably develop a tolerance. And Fujimine is like, oh, yeah, yeah, like after I took control of you and made you turn on your Magic Keeper friends and kill them all. Oh, you didn't know that that's how they died. Oh, yeah. So this is a nice moment because June clearly is getting angry and kind of keeping a lid on it. And Fujimi is like, yeah, I kind of remember you. You like, came after me. You were a little rookie back then. I guess you're still alive. But yeah, the thing is, like, nobody really remembers when I use my poison's effects on them. They just kind of wake up. So to you, it must have just been like you blinked and everybody around you was dead. Yeah, isn't that sweet? You and I worked together to kill all the people that you were friends. Yeah. So June gets really mad about this for some reason.
Yeah,
Uh,
even his stupid hat looks like it's a little bit angry.
it does kind of. It's a little bit color washed, yeah.
Yeah.
And Fujimane is really happy to see this reaction. He yells her name really loudly because he's so upset. Fujimane just casts her arm forward, and like all the combatants that she has gotten, except for Ichi, run towards him. And we do get this cool image of like him squaring off 1v4. Very, very movie poster kind of image. But then we break into a flashback to when Chun was a rookie magic keeper, and we meet some sort of senior magic keeper or teacher of his. We don't really see his face very well. We don't see we don't get his name or anything like that. But he's warning Chun like, "Hey, look, we've had generations of magic keepers trying to catch Fujimine. She is a monster. No one has ever come back alive from trying to get her. Our chances are slim, but we've got to keep on trying to take her down. You can lose over and over. It doesn't matter. You can run away. That's fine. But that flame in your soul, you never let that go out. Understand?" And of course, that dude did not come back from the hunt for Fujimine. We see what appears to be his last moments as he says, "I bequeath it to you, our charge, our wish." He did not give Chun his stupid hat, by the way. Chun had that in the flashback
He
already.
always had that. You can't even be like, well, he inherited the stupid hat, so thus we got to forgive him.
No.
No, he chose this. This is a bad choice he made.
So Chun fights as much as he can, but he is quickly pushed into a corner, gets his stupid hat knocked off. He's bleeding and bruised and stuff. And Descarus and Gokuraku, Minakata, and Zaire are all coming in to finish him. And Fujimine says, "Bye-bye, little shorty." But then a huge wave of water appears from behind Chun, sweeps around him, and then washes against like everyone else's ankles. And as Descartes is going like, wait a minute, isn't this a feminine figure forms from the water, gives her a big old smooch, which she doesn't seem to enjoy, given by the noise that she makes, which is and then she throws up afterwards.
Yeah, it's the Yuri magic. And this is a very uncouth reaction to have during Pride Month, Descartes, I'll have you know. Gross.
Yeah.
How dare you?
And it wasn't even Togeis who did it. What a ripoff. Yeah, but of course, another witch has arrived on the scene. In particular, it is the older witch. What was her name? I had to look her name up before this. But it's the older witch that is part of the Mantanello main association.
I don't know.
She
all
has
their
appeared.
names,
She's got her cool parasol and stuff ready to go, and she says, "Hey, there's no need for you to go rushing off to your death, kid."
I mean,
So that's our chapter.
how was he supposed to know you were going to show up?
Well, he was still being stupid. He was going around going like, "Ah, I hate you" and stuff, which wasn't very smart tactics. So,
True. True. Yeah, I think the only thing that really stood out to me during the chapter is when they discussed they're like generations of magic keepers have failed to catch Fujimine, and I was like, is Fujimine super old? What do you mean
yeah,
generations?
that
But
seems to be the implication. Yes. So,
I actually realized later, I'm like, oh, it just means generations of the magic keepers that exist at this point in time. Like, I assume, like, 20-year-old magic keepers, 40-year-old magic keepers, 60-year-old, like, they've all failed. Because I don't believe that there's actually supposed to be any, like, long life aspect to being a witch. It's not like Descarus is, like, 600 years old or anything like that.
true. This is like the one witch that we've seen that is actually fairly advanced in age and still is a witch.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I mean, like in that very first image that we saw, going back to Fujimane's first appearance, we saw that there was a scarred witch who survived the initial attack, and someone, might have been me, threw out the idea that it was actually her, and this would seem to kind of point us in that direction that that is the case. Uh, but if she, otherwise she just kind of like shows up randomly and is like, "I'm
Yeah.
the one who's going to save your butts." So,
It would make sense if she's not, because it's supposed to be what, an airborne magic, so she presumably is somebody who has been affected by it as well. And we know that what's her name, Fujimine used this probably used this technique to steal the Toxoterra magic at the start, which again makes sense that this isn't actually the Toxoterra magic, that it's like some other jellyfish equated magic.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just guessing on that end, but yeah, I guess we'll see what happens here. I'm glad there's a character who's not Chun that I can root for now.
Yeah. Especially if she made everyone vomit up their mind control poison stuff. Then we'll get to like root for Descartes and Gokuraku and everyone again. So
Yeah.
hooray.
And I don't think it's going to be too long before Amadoro gets back up. This feels like it's a good opportunity for her to kind of get like a cool hero moment by the end of this.
We'll see.
Yep.
All right.
Blue box.
Chapter 245, All Out Effort. It is the third of three games between Yusa and Taiki. Immediately, we see Yusa take the lead, but Taiki immediately ties it back up, and things just kind of proceed from there. We check in on the score numerous times throughout the chapter. They are always either tied or within 1 point of each other the entire way through. So this is, instead of like, the focus being on like, Taiki reflecting on all of his friends, it's all of his friends reflecting on their relationships with Taiki. So we start off with Kyo,
Yo.
and he says that like, this guy, Taiki's like dazzling to behold. He's always looked up to Shinatsu Senpai, but he is the one that I've always aspired to be like, because I'm the kind that kind of tends to take a step back and figure out where I stand and think things through before acting, which is why I miss certain opportunities. And he thinks of his neighbor that he had a crush on that he kind of missed his window with. And, also kind of like screwed things up a little bit with Ayame for a little while there, didn't it? But things worked out okay there. But in terms of thinking of Taiki, he says that he always shows an astonishing level of sincerity. When he says, "This is what I want to do," that's just what he's going to do. So he says, like, "Hey, come on, don't give up, Taiki. Your best friend wants you to follow your own path." Then we get Haryu's focus on it, which is like, hey, when this guy first showed up in club, he was really fun to tease, but he was really tough and dedicated to practice, and he was really, really serious about stuff to the point that I kind of worried about him. But he always stands up whenever he falls down. He keeps challenging himself even when he loses. He never stops looking ahead, and that's Taiki's strength. And then we get Hina, and Hina says, "I know you can do it. You're the dummy who rejected someone as sweet and cute as the great Hina Chono," which good for you, girl.
Yeah.
That's good, healthy self-confidence. But she also thinks of it in terms of her experience being, the daughter of an Olympian, in terms of how that affects like competitiveness and training and everything. And she admits, "I guess I was living under more pressure than I ever actually knew. But with Taiki, I'm just Hina Chono. I can be myself around him. We've always been equals, no matter what. And that has always made me happy. Aw. And then thinks your best friend, the great Hina Chono, is rooting for you. And so both she and Kyo are calling themselves Taiki's best friend. But we know from the previous chapter, sorry, Hina, you're second place.
My second best friend, she's also a best friend. She just happens to be the second one. Sort of like how at the office I work at, I'm the second Quinn who works there. So everyone has to call me Quinn too. It's just, seniority. He met Kyo first. I don't think he did, but
I think he did. I'm not sure.
Did he? All right, there we go. That's why. See?
Yeah, yeah. Chinatsu then comes up and she thinks about how, so much of what she accomplished is just all thanks to Taiki. She reflects on, how things, devolved between her and Yumika and how there were things that they couldn't say to each other. There were things that she couldn't see eye to eye on with her father. And it's because of Taiki that I'm now able to cherish the people who matter to me. And of course, Yumika is there in the stadium, but it is kind of nice that like we see her parents too, and they're not there, but they're like, oh, that match that Taiki is in is happening today, and they're like, oh, okay. So it's like, oh, they care about what Chinatsu's boyfriend is up to. That's nice. Chinatsu says something incredibly cheesy and romantic, which is, you were the one who gave me the sparkle of love.
Sure.
Which, if you have the amount of confidence and comfort to be able to say those kinds of things in your own relationship, I congratulate you. But then she's like, look, when I'm struggling, he's always there for me. And when he's struggling, I want to be with him. And when I see him working hard, when I watch him moving step by step toward his goal, when I saw him first thing in the morning, that's when I realized how precious he is to me. Which is very sweet to have this indication of like, oh, like, yeah, she didn't love Taiki from the very beginning, but there was that kind of like connection between them mutually from the beginning. So isn't that sweet? Then we get Bummer Iazaki focused on as Taiki is playing against Yusa, and the narration, whom I guess is from Taiki himself, is, look, Yusa is strong, and it goes without saying that talented people who put in the hard work are always going to achieve results, but that's no excuse to give up. The desperation of normal people and our all-out effort can help us to win too, right? I've got friends, people cheering me on, people supporting me. The person I am today is the person that all of you helped me become. And we get an indication that the score is 19-19 as we launch into the final stretch of the match, and we end on a big 2-page spread of Taiki determinedly smashing the shuttlecock.
A really good chapter. I reiterate kind of what I think we've said a little bit now, which is like, okay, so this series is probably ending soon then, right? Because you can't really do another sports, like you've done a lot of the big things you would do in what would be like your final match of a sports series. So I very easily could see the next chapter just being like, and here's the final score, however it might go. I honestly, I don't know if they're going to have Taiki win or lose here. I think they could go either way on it. But I do think like next chapter, we might just like jump into what the result is essentially.
Yeah, that seems like where it's going with this. In terms of the effect on the chapter, I'm not sure. As we'll get into, we've begun a new run of series, and only one series from 2 batches ago has been canceled.
Yes.
Which would indicate that there is probably going to be something else being cut in the near future. It could be that it's just like, okay, there's going to be some juggling and stuff as like, more stuff goes on break for a little bit. And maybe that'll like kind of buy time so that we don't have to have something end right away in order to make room. But yeah, there's 3 different series that I'm looking at. And I'm thinking, you look like you're going to end sooner than later. I just don't know exactly when.
This Hima-Ten, and then what would be the third?
Oh, but we'll talk about it.
Okay. Okay. I look forward to that. Beyond that, I do think that Taiki has proved himself pretty stoutly in this match. He is, win or lose, taken the supposed favorite world champion all the way to 19-19, one set apiece score. So clearly he's already beaten Yusa in like a practice match, and now he's shown that he can pretty much get there during a regular match as well. So
yep,
very, very great showing for Taiki.
Yep. All right. Dun 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 dun.
Yes, this is Dandadan chapter 236. Run away from those dinosaurs. So Yadagrasu has shown up and just punched the Bleak Barber, I think is his name, or Black Barber.
Yeah.
Punched him right in the face, sent him flying, and he simply asks Ira to, quote, take her boyfriend and go to the barber shop. She is not going to internalize that. Nope, no, not at all. But while he's squaring off against the Seal Lion Man, Ira grabs Okarun and is like, all right, let's get going. And Okarun says, no, we have to help Miss Isa and Gigi. Yadagarasu says, you need to go do something else. You guys did not survive this encounter alone. What makes you think you could do anything for them? So please, go to the barber shop. The less you guys are causing a problem makes things easier for me. Cut over to the dinosaur area where a bunch of raptors are just eating a triceratops. They're just chowing down on it, having a good time. I don't know if raptors did that, but I don't know enough about dinosaurs to say either way. We see that Momo is trying to hide, though she is thinking and kind of lamenting Gigi just being eaten by a dinosaur. It's kind of funny because I think we're supposed to be like legitimately like very tense for Momo in this chapter and like kind of sad for her as well. But I can't stop laughing at the image of this brontosaurus just eating Gigi. Makes me laugh. So Momo says, what is going on here? And she pulls out the whistle that, oh gosh, I have forgotten her name. Jetpack Lady is what we're just going to call her. Gave her all those that while ago. And she thinks, okay, if I blow this alien will come, but it's going to take them a while to get here. So if I blow it right now, all the dinosaurs will just swarm all over me. So I can't stay here. I gotta figure out some way to slip out. Dinosaur hops on the thing above her, but she manages to roll underneath the counter in time, and basically has to do like sort of a small comedy sketch where she has to like roll between like areas to stay safe while these dinosaurs are like actively trying to hunt for her. They haven't like regained their sense of smell yet. That doesn't come, I guess, until later. And she gets an idea when she sees a bunch of balloons. And she takes one, she puts the whistle in it, she kind of counts herself down, and then she drops, like lets go of the balloon that sends the whistle away with it while blowing it. So all the dinosaurs go off towards where the sound is, and Momo takes that opportunity to escape while being chased by dinosaurs. She has to slide underneath like a steel gate that is almost completely all the way dropped. She manages to slide just underneath it, gets herself to safety, says
manages to move her backpack around her while she's doing it too, because it is along her back before she slides, and then she gets it onto her belly when she does it.
And she says, screw you, don't mess with humans. And then the chapter ends with the Spinosaurus being in the room with her. So,
yep.
It doesn't seem like she's really escaped danger too much, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't. Unless the Spinosaurus is unexpectedly friendly.
What the Spinosaurus is like, I have the cap of power. I'm actually an ally. I'm going to be one of your schoolhouse chums.
just like fits in to the schoolroom for all of their scenes together where they're hanging out and being goofballs. Like, I want to get in on this too. Can I be in the group date?
I'm going to be in a love triangle with Kinta and Vimola. And by that, I mean I'm going to eat them both. No, don't eat Vimola.
That was very specific.
I chose my words carefully. Yeah, good stuff.
This is a very fun chapter. I really liked seeing Momo having to use her wits. I thought that it was a very fun, tense scene. And I thought it was very amusing where there's a bit as she is ducking around, very Jurassic Park style, trying to get away. And there's a sequence where she just fully like arms and legs extended rolls across the floor in a moment that makes no sense tonally for the rest of the chapter. But yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we will see hopefully what happens next. But in the meantime, we're going to jump over to Spy Family Mission 136.
Yes, we are. We are still caught in the situation where Yor and Lloyd are at the party that is being thrown by Yuri's workmates. And Lloyd knows that he's surrounded by all these secret police people, and he's got to try and find a way to get them out of this. And so his plan currently is to use a watch device that Frankie had given him, experimental, like knockout dart thing. But he knows that isn't going to have much of an opening, so he is analyzing everyone in terms of all their body movement. He's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for his opportunity. Has a chance when a woman randomly drops her handkerchief, and as he is bending down to help her to get it, he fires the dart launcher from under his armpit directly towards Yor, who is kind of half drunk at this point and just kind of instinctively sways perfectly away from the dart and dodges it. So Lloyd's like, God, wow, I missed. Did I just not accurately factor in how intoxicated she was? Damn it. I only have one shot left and I cannot afford to miss. Both Lloyd and Yor are not doing physically great at this point because Lloyd is having stomach issues from all the ulcers and stuff from stress. And Yor is, pretty drunk. And Yuri's asking, like, have you had too much to drink? And she's like, no, I haven't had nearly enough, because she's trying to get more drunk so that she can tolerate being around Lloyd. But she rethinks this because, if I don't get used to being around Lloyd without alcohol, then I won't be able to do it. So I'm just going to go towards him. And so she starts to stumble a bit towards her husband. Yuri realizes this is happening, so he also stalks after her, tries to intercede as Lloyd is like hoping to use this to get a shot off. But now Lloyd is like completely misinterpreting what's happening because he's like, wait a minute, has he deduced what I'm going to do? Or maybe he is instinctively protecting his sister on a subconscious level. So Yor is like, I just want to get over to Lloyd. I'm trying to get closer to Lloyd. And so she knows that if she just kind of physically overpowers Yuri, then people might figure out she's an assassin. So she instead steps forward, puts her hand on her brother's shoulder, and says, the only thing I want right now is to cuddle with my husband. And perfect KO. Yuri is knocked out and falls to his knees. Boom. And then Yor nuzzles in close to Lloyd, which involves just kind of like bumping her shoulder against him. And Lloyd's like, I don't know what the hell she's trying to do, but this is an opening. And so he, at point blank range, launches the dart directly into Yor's neck as he puts his arm around her. And he kind of apologizes mentally, but he's like, this is for the sake of peace. I just need you to take a little nap. And Yor scratches her neck and is completely unaffected by it. It has no effect whatsoever.
She's like, a mosquito bit me.
Yeah. So Lloyd's like, what the fuck? It didn't work. I'm going to cut off Frankie's R&D funding. This is fucking worthless. This has no effects. And yours just like a little bit like, oh, wow, okay. I feel a little more relaxed now. That's just it. That's the only effect
That's
that
the effect, is it kind of chilled her out a little bit.
Yuri has fully collapsed on the ground. So everyone's like, oh, man, this dude's out. We better kind of wrap things up here. But the pizza delivery man, aka the director of the secret police, is like, oh, but I want to do more drinking with everyone. I get so lonely. So Lloyd's like, damn it, I've got to come up with some sort of excuse to get out of here. Maybe if some kind of crisis broke out and spoiled the party, then the director would want to leave. Like, maybe if the house caught on fire. I mean, it's like, that is way too reckless. I can't do that. Okay, I know what I'll do. I'll feign sickness, since now Yuri won't be around to accuse me of anything, and then I'll just make the excuse that I need to go home, and then I'll take Yor with me. So I'll go to the bathroom and I'll like apply makeup to enhance my pallor and stuff, so I look really sickly. So he's like, "All right, I'm going to the bathroom." He goes into the bathroom. One of the agents is there trying to start a fire so that he can get out of the situation with the director. So, yep. Fortunately, before anything else can happen, the phone rings and there is actually a legitimate emergency that requires the secret police's attention. So the guy who answers the phone goes over to the director and explains, like, "Hey, we got a call from the bureau. There are some things that require your attention and stuff, so they got to go." And it turns out, actually, no, someone placed a call as a favor, and they're like, "Can you just like call in and say that there's an emergency so we get this fucking guy
We
out of
need
this
this guy to
party?"
go on.
So Yor Lloyd and Yuri and the woman that has worked closely with Yuri a few times are walking together in the same direction away from the party. Yuri proudly proclaims, "I'm never going to be satisfied that Lloyd is right for my sister." But he does mentally acknowledge, like, I do have to actually like try and grow up a bit. He's taken 7 steps backward in these 3 chapters, so he takes 2 steps forward in this one,
Ah,
basically.
okay, gotcha.
So he realized, like, okay, Yuri does have her own life. I've got to try and do something about that. I've got to try and get better. So he wishes Yor well, takes off. His coworker is with him and says, like, "Do you like really hate Yor's husband that much? He seems like a good guy." And Yuri reflects on what happened at the shooting previously and how Lloyd stepped in the way of the gun. And he says, "I don't hate him. He vowed to protect my sister, and when he did that, it wasn't a lie." So, hey, a sensible part of Yuri emerged in this chapter. Hooray!
Yay.
It only took 136 chapters, so yeah.
Hey, Nick, that's not fair. He didn't show up until like chapter 7 or whatever, so it's like
Right.
120 or whatever.
And a lot of these are like multi-part chapters and stuff, so it
Yeah.
might actually be more. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
Yor and Lloyd are talking on their way home for a bit. Lloyd is reflecting on like how like exhausting the whole thing was, and he actually starts to wobble a bit as they're walking. And Yor catches him and he apologizes, but she just looks at him and takes his hand and puts his arm around her shoulders and says, "Hey, I told you, I'm always happier if you rely on me for help." And he's apologetic for that, and she's like, "Yeah, don't apologize." And as they walk off that way, Lloyd, well, first off, Yor thinks to herself, like, I mean, I could just like body this guy and just firemen's carry him out of here. We'd make way better time, but that probably wouldn't look too good. Um, uh, but Lloyd thinks to himself, I can't even tell anymore if Yor actually is an asset to Operation Strix or an obstacle. But he thinks, like, I can't just be thinking of her that callously, though. It's not her fault that any of this happened. I wasn't thorough enough, and that's the only thing that caused this crisis. They get home, and as soon as they're through the door, Lloyd collapses face down on the floor. And we get, comic beats from like everybody where, Yor's like, "Lloyd, wake up." And, Becky is there because she's, she's over at Anya's to play. And she's like, "No, my Lloyd." And Anya's just like, "Huh? Pop is dead."
Yeah. All right. Fun little side story. I do wish there had been a little bit more of like significance to this arc in like its conclusion. Yuri realizing that he doesn't truly hate Lloyd isn't really anything that's developed by this arc. That decision was ultimately made in the last arc. And I thought maybe like, oh, maybe there'll be like a little bit of like a hint. Like maybe the director will be like, there is something about that Lloyd guy or something to suggest that like something has come of all this. But it didn't kind of go there. So I do wish we had gotten something there because I do think Spy Family at times can just kind of feel like it's spinning its wheels. But that's a minor complaint for otherwise a fun and enjoyable story.
And I do think that like the jokes stopped escalating after the previous chapter as well. So this was just kind of like, and then that we just wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's nice that we end on some more emotional reflection as we were gradually wearing down Lloyd's walls that have been up for the entirety of the series. But Yeah, I see where you're coming from in that, and I also think that this it's probably going to be thought of as one of the more skippable arcs of Spy Family when people kind of look back on it, because it's not one of the funniest, and it's also not one of the most significant for that reason too.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like, oh, this is bad or anything like that. It was just one of those things like, ooh, I wish we could have hit I think they could have really nailed something at the end, some intrigue to make me excited. But as is, I'll just look forward to a Spy Family chapter the same way I do any other. So we have that. Nick, it's time for a brand new Shonen Jump series.
That's right. It's called Animal Signal. Its story is done by Robinson Haruhara and art by our old friend Taishi Tsutsui.
Hey, he's back. It wasn't even that long of a break.
No, that's Sid Craft was last year. So, but Taishi Tsutsui not doing the story this time, which probably a good thing.
Good. Hey, his art's very good, minus the way women's pants sometimes conform to their bodies. But outside of that, I think a very, very good artist.
Premise of this series is that some animals are born with the traits of animals. It's a very My Hero Academia style opening that we get, where it's like, oh, a lot of people are born with animal features and it gives them special powers, and it's just like this is just the world we're in. It is a world that is, otherwise completely normal, except that some people have superpowers, and those superpowers have animal traits as a flavor thing to them.
Yes.
So some people with these animal powers are part of the Anima Control Center, basically a special division of the police that looks into anima-related crimes. Yes. Anima is the term for people who have these animal traits. Our protagonists are Kokone Otowa and Tsubasa Makise. Kokone is this kind of hot rising star. She's this young woman who has bat powers, and Tsubasa is this kind of mopey sort of looking guy. He's the rookie.
Yeah.
So
I do want to add real quick, this series does have a consultant as well, Kairi Shinohara, which is relevant because the series is going to get into a lot of animal facts.
A lot. We spend a lot of time in this with animal stuff. Like Kokone's ability is that she can echolocate, but it's not just analyzing stuff around her. She can analyze brain waves with her echolocation, which of course is very good for a police detective to have. And she basically just goes around and she reads people's minds and stuff. But she keeps getting distracted by Tsubasa in this chapter because the guy loves animals. And so he's got this, very passive look on his face, but he's just I just love animals so much. And he's reciting animal trivia in his head as he's going around the zoo. And he's setting up a game show for himself. It's for no one's benefit, but Kokone is hearing it all. And it's really cute because Kokone, you kind of look at her and you think oh, she's really focused on her job and stuff. She's going to be tsundere, and she's going to be frustrated with him. She can't stop listening to his animal facts. They're so interesting. She keeps on getting caught up in them, and it's getting her distracted from her job.
Yeah.
So we get stuff with elephants for a few pages about how they sweat specifically around their toenails, which means well, how do they regulate their body temperature? It's by flapping their massive ears. That's how they do it. And Kokone is oh, this is actually really nice. I've spent an entire minute of my 3-minute limit just listening to elephant facts.
I should not be doing that. All right, just gotta focus in. Gotta zero in on just finding this arson guy.
And then he goes over to the wombat pen, and she's like, "What are you looking at?" And we get several pages dedicated to wombat poop. Look, we spent an entire series setting up poop jokes weeks ago. Quinn, why is this so much better?
I think it's because it's not about people necessarily just pooping. It's about why poop is the way it is, and explaining that it's actually much more intricate and involved than you think. Also, this wombat's adorable. Look at it. Look at his face.
It's unnaturally human eyes, yes. And square poop, yes. So Kokone is like, oh, this is so interesting. And then she goes and sits on a bench in shame and she's like, I've used 2/3 of my time to use my powers for the day when we're supposed to be here to catch a criminal. And I wasted a minute of poop. And she's like, I've got to do this. I've got all these skills under my belt. I've got to focus. I'm the brains of the operation. I'm the rising star at the Anima Control Center. But I keep on getting distracted because this guy's got such interesting animal facts. And she's like, okay, time to lock in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to focus on the investigation. I'll figure out where the arsonist is, not on how poop is made. As her partner goes into the aquatic corner, she's like, okay, now I can walk around and I can use my mind reading abilities in just like brief bursts of several seconds and I'll find it. So yeah, I'm going to show you, Tsubasa. You're the last thing on my mind. Tsubasa probably knows a lot about aquatic animals, doesn't he?
I bet he knows a lot about fish, too.
I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Where is he?
The entire thing where she's just like, it's not like I care. I barely have any time left. I got bigger fish to fry. I just gotta get going. I wouldn't dream of next panel looking at him as he's in the thing. She's like, what's happening?
And it's not like she's like, going there to hang out with him. She's like shamefully hiding around the corner to spy on him to read his mind as he's innocently looking at animal.
I mean, they eventually become food.
Shrimp, yes. So yeah, she's like in full on addict behavior thing. Just like, oh, someone's got to stop me from doing this. But a big thing happens, which is that Tsubasa is like looking at the pistol shrimp and the goby fish, who has a symbiotic relationship, and they are like he like imagines them as basically being like superheroes or like Sherlock and Watson. They're like a dream team. And Kokone is like, oh yeah, okay, they complement each other's weaknesses. And then Tsubasa is like, I haven't heard from Kokone yet. We're both the same age, but she's so accomplished, and they even let her lead missions on her own. She's amazing, and she gets to go to school, unlike me. I'm just lucky to be paired with her. That's why I hope I can be helpful to her someday. And maybe we can be a dream team like these guys, like the shrimp and goby fish. When Kokone's like, oh, I can't let this guy down. Let's go back to work. And her time runs out immediately.
I love the cool moment of she's like, well, I guess I can't let him down. Let's get back to work. And just like her still trying to walk afterwards. Like, crap.
So Tsubasa later finds Kokone on a bench. She's looking very, very sorry for herself. So he approaches her and is like, hey, what's wrong? And Kokone's like, do you have any idea whose fault this is? It's mine.
This is a very strong and good character moment, because if she legitimately did try to blame him, it would be really upsetting. But her being able to fully admit, she's like, I shouldn't have listened. I shouldn't have spent all my time listening to your animal facts thoughts.
This is, I think, the key to this, because look, if you don't think that any of the jokes in this are good, like, humor is subjective and stuff, but my God, if Kokone like turned into a bitch around Tsubasa, like she was trying to maintain like, I'm your superior and stuff, and she was trying to front the whole time, it would be so much less relatable of her to do that. And like, you could so easily go forward with that idea for their dynamic, but the fact that she actually, now that she knows him a little better from having been in his thoughts, and she's actually like just upfront and nice to him, or at least professional with him, so much better in story direction.
Are you familiar with the author from this series?
I've only know of the other stuff that they've done.
Tis Time for Torture Princess.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that beyond like its title.
I never read the entire thing, but I did read like the first 15 or so chapters, and the vibe I'm getting is that they and Susui are a very good combo, because they seem to have a sort of similar style of how they like stories to go, where it's like you could make it more, but generally the characters are pretty affable towards one another. There's not like a ton of tension. Tis Time for Torture Princess was like a gag manga about like how the bad guys have to torture this princess they've captured, but they just, they go in to do stupid stuff instead, basically, because they don't really know how to torture somebody, and she's down for what that's going on anyway. So, yeah, I think that there's a gentleness and like a jovial nature between the characters that they share with Susui's already kind of existing style.
Yeah. Another thing that I like about this moment is that, it's not where like, Kokone is like, completely made a fool of herself and she
Yeah.
needs Tsubasa to like pick her back up. She, has a moment to feel sorry for herself because she's like, okay, I just gotta use the info I have to work with. And then she's like, the freaking only info I have to work with is the stuff that I got from Tsubasa's animal facts. What am I going to do? All I know is about elephants and poop and shrimp. That tells me nothing. Then she overhears a kid walking by talking to their mother saying that elephant was flapping its ears. And she remembers from Subasa's animal facts, wait a minute, elephants flap their ears to regulate temperature. So she runs off to the animal pen and is like, this area is unseasonably hot. And that's why the elephant was flapping his ears. And we are after an arson anima. And sure enough, there is a guy who's got flames around his hands. So Tsubasa is like, oh, wow, you must have used your expert command of your ability to find the culprit. And she's like, stop. So Kokone confronts the arsonist. Even if you didn't have like the info to go off of, this dude's eyes, like
You're like, this dude definitely is pretty suspicious. You have eyes. I think you can see this guy and be like, he might be part of the problem.
Yeah. So Kokone's like, all right, I guess we've got this guy, our guy. And then she's like, I wonder what kind of anima he's got, though. And Tsubasa's like, well, I don't know, but I can guess what his anima is. And Kokone's like, oh, you can? And Tsubasa's like, oh, yeah. See, the truth is, I really like animals. It's like, oh, right. Kokone only picked this up from reading his mind. So, he suggests that the guy has a tuna anima and goes over some more animal facts related to how a tuna actually, regulates its own temperature by with having a steam vent and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's got a very big heat cycling apparatus. And then, he's gotten so worked up over it and then he gets kind of like flustered and stuff. And it's one of those things where it's like, I like that he's kind of self-conscious over like, oh no, I went on about my hyperfixation, and Kokone's just like listening, like, oh, this is really interesting.
Fascinating.
And at the end, after Tsubasa explains everything, he's like, yeah, he must be using this ability from the tuna anima to trap heat stored inside of himself until it grows extremely hot. And then the the arsonist goes, so that's what I'm doing.
I do love the joke of he's like, oh, that's what's going on.
That's so fucking funny. So yeah, he's threatening them. He's like, I'm gonna make this whole area erupt into flames. So Kokone is like, all right, well, you expect us to do nothing while we just wait around for you to do that? Come on, Tsubasa, use your anima and take him down. And Tsubasa says, but I don't have an anima. Why do you work in the division, though? Yeah, they said they wanted me because I know a lot about animals, which seems patently absurd, but I'll fucking take it.
He knows a lot about animals, though, Nick.
So, and so, Kokone starts to like go on a rant of like anima and animals may be similar, but they're very different. Your knowledge about animals, and then she's like, actually, it was really helpful.
Kind of saved the day already. I can't really say that out loud, but it's big help.
So the arsonist looks like he's going to start causing trouble. He's going on about purifying stuff with flames. Kokone's like, oh man, what are we going to do? And Tsubasa says, actually, I think it's going to be okay. We can't stop him ourselves. And Kokone's like, what are you basing this on? And he says, frogs. And she's like, frogs? Yeah, the frogs were really quiet up until now, but then they all started croaking. This is what's called a rain call. Frogs breathe through their skin, so they're very sensitive to humidity in the air. And the more humid it is, the more active they become, which means it's going to rain. And it starts raining very immediately, dumps on top of the tuna anima guy, extinguishes his flames, and on top of that, he is immediately really quickly out of breath. Because, as Tsubasa explains, he's got a quick metabolism because tuna have quick metabolism in order to generate all that heat. So he's been breathing like this in order to use his anima. He probably used a lot of oxygen, and now there's thick water and stuff. He's going to run out of oxygen very quickly, and sure enough, guy collapses immediately. So Kokone's a little bit embarrassed that Tsubasa was like so confident in all this happening when she was getting all worked up, but the guy is arrested, taken off. And Tsubasa, is in the mindset of like, I didn't do anything today. I was just like walking around the park stopping in front of animal exhibits and stuff. And Kokone's like been really quiet to me. She must be really mad at me because I've been so useless to her. I was so lucky to get this, this responsibility, and I guess this is it. She's not going to want to be a partner with me anymore. And of course, Kakone is just like, I can't believe I lost to this guy. This guy was the one who solved the case like all on his own. It's not fair. I'm the one who's the hot rising star. I would have never been able to do this without Tsubasa around. And then he had the gall to look kind of cool at the end of everything. And she literally throws herself on the ground and starts kicking her feet and throwing a tantrum because she's upset about all this. In her mind, she does all this internally. But then she looks up at Tsubasa and says, "You win this time. I fully admit you've proven yourself today, but mark my words, next time I'll be the one who steals the show." And she runs off, and all Tsubasa cares about is, she said next time. And he's really happy that they're still partnered together. So, that's it. We get a little moment where Kokone is looking up at him and she's like, he must be thinking of animal facts. And yep, he's thinking of animal facts. He's living his best life.
Yes, and I guess we can already kind of speak from the first chapter. This seems like a really promising new series. I've always been a fan of Susui's art for the most part. I think he draws really expressive characters who are like very pleasant to watch. Like they just look very good, and I like that. The writing's also a little different than some of the other stuff, I think actually these two seem to have a really good starting chapter. I think this premise is really fun and interesting. I like the dynamic our two leads have. I'll be curious to see how they kind of move this going forward. Is this a series that's going to try to ride the line between a gag manga and a battle manga, or is it going to find itself kind of forced one way or the other at some point? I don't know, but I really, really like this starting chapter, and I'm very excited for more.
We've seen so many humor series start off with this premise of like a guy and a girl are going around to catch bad guys and stuff. It's happened so many times with series that we have immediately been like, no, don't want to read that. And this definitely seems like the most promising of them for reasons that we've gone over. There's like a certain I don't know, a certain dynamic between our two leads that seems very endearing, and the humor actually seems very, very good so far.
Yep, I'm really, really enjoying it so far. Looking forward to more.
Speaking of our leads, Quinn, we've got Chapter 93 of Hima-Ten.
More like Hima 93.
Himari and Tenichi is the chapter title. Himari and Tenichi, that's the Iomori. And
Nick, you know what?
Tenichi,
if you kind of just took off some of the extra letters in there, kind of sounds like the title of the manga.
Yeah, Riichi. No, wait, that's Mahjong. So last time Himari almost drove off Iomori with her weirdness and everything, but Tsubone was talking sense into her to go after him, but it turns out Iomori was coming back on his own because he didn't want things to just end between them the way that they were heading in. And Iomori says to Himari, "Look, lately I haven't been able to get you out of my head," which is, man, if you're not going to confess to somebody romantically when you say that, then you better follow up really quickly with a clarification. And he admits, like,
it's because you're haunting my brain like the Shadow King.
Yeah. He admits, when I thought about why that might be, I realized, like, the only reason was that I must really care about you. And even though we agreed that, like, yeah, I'm not going to work for you anymore, it seems obvious, like, you still need someone, but you said you couldn't imagine having anyone but me. And he says, look, whenever you need me, I just can't help but want to support you. And I don't know how to move on from this. And he's like, look, I can't just, like, let things end like this without, like, some closure. I want to know how you feel. And he's even like, look, if you really don't need me, just tell me you don't need me anymore. So Himari thinks back over stuff, and she thinks, like, yeah, I didn't, like, go after him aggressively like Kana did. I didn't think about him with such dedication the way Honoka has. I wanted to change, but it was too little too late, and I wouldn't let him go as my cleaner. If I tell Iomori I like him, that's the same as telling him I still need him. Yes? That's good. Whatever. But she's at the point like where she's like, I feel like I've like already lost romantically to Kana and Honoka, but I still need to tell him. Out of the three of us, I have relied on Iamori the most. After all this time, in the final moment, I need to tell him how I feel, not for me, but for him. Whatever you gotta tell yourselves, guys. Whatever you gotta tell yourselves, just. But she calls all the way back to when they first met each other and says, you told me that you were in charge of all the chores at home and that you pick up the slack when no one else does. You said you like it when people count on you because you felt like it would pay off someday. And Iamori's like, yeah. And then you said it already had paid off because I got to know you. And so Himari's like, yeah, you had so much confidence in doing your job. Being a housekeeper seemed like it affected your self-confidence. Then you told that sob story about how being good at cleaning wouldn't be enough to win over a girl as cute and nice as Honoka. And she goes on to say, I think being a house cleaner is actually your love language. Picking up slack in everyday life is what house cleaning is. It may not be a special skill, but it does affect people's happiness. You show kindness through your acts of house cleaning, so that's why I think you're wonderful. Wonderful enough to be my very first crush. Oh my God, one of them said it.
Finally. There was a part of me that was worried it was going to stop at like I think cleaning is your love language. Like, yeah, I get it. Acts of service. Keep going. Like, continue this thought.
Yeah. So she's like, I did all this stuff. Like, I'm so dedicated to my job. I moved here for my career, but before I realized it, I was thinking about you even during meetings. You got me all worked up. You got me jealous. You got me depressed. And I don't know how to do feelings or relationships. So whenever you came over, I just pretended I was fine. But on the inside, all I ever wanted was for you to see me, which I hate that phrase. I really hate when like people use like you see me in like romantic connotations and stuff. It's like the most 15-year-old writing romance that I can think of. So yeah. Iamori, however, is very affected by this because he is a teenager. And Himari says, nothing was going the way I wanted it to. I lost my nerve. I was shaken up. But honestly, it's been hard a lot of the time. But whenever I'd eat your cooking, it would always put a smile on my face. Sorry, now I'm thinking of the Joker. I'm just thinking of like things that I like more than this chapter.
You like the Jared Leto Joker more than this chapter?
Yeah, he said that line. That's right. Maybe he did. I don't know.
He might have. I don't remember that movie super well.
Maybe in the suck your dick cut of that movie, there's like a scene where he has a good take somewhere in there. I don't know.
Hey, Nick, I've heard he's very good as Skeletor.
Oh, is he in the Masters of the Universe movie as Skeletor?
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
I just like how people were like, we just got to give him a role where he doesn't look like himself or be present at all.
Sound like himself.
And I'm like, I think our standards are too low.
My God, he is Skeletor. How weird.
It's a strange movie in all around. Allison Brie is Evil Lynn, and I'm like, all right, I suppose that is an option.
You just like would expect her to stomp her foot really angrily, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, sorry. Take the material seriously. Okay. Himari says to Iamori, I've already had my fill. Since I met you, I've experienced so many things. I've had so many feelings I've never experienced before. I want to use all that to keep plowing ahead. I want to make it so far that you don't have to worry about me. And Iamori's like, oh, is that your answer? And she says, yeah. I'm fine just being there to see what happens. In exchange, I hope that for all the times you made my day, you'll use that same kindness to make your crush just as happy as I was. So basically, she is flat out saying, I had a crush on you, but I'm giving up on you now. Which makes more sense than what she was trying to do before. But anyway.
Don't worry.
Iamori,
if you were concerned that we had resolved one of the long, like, at the end of this month I'll do this. No, that still is
No,
on
no,
the
no, no,
table.
no. Iamori thinks of Honoka and how they've got their stupid monthly promise coming up soon. And so now he turns to leave and he's like, all right, I'll give you your key back after the school trip and then we'll talk again. And Himari's like, oh, yeah, I can't go on the trip because of work, so just tell me how it goes. And Iamori, without even turning to look back at her, he says, thanks and I'm sorry. And we get a montage of all of their like closest moments together from across the story, and the elevator shuts, and of course Himari tears up and she goes and collapses and says, "Thank you, Iamori." And Iamori's upset too as the elevator goes down. So yay, they beg and they got their emotions out. It was a big sad moment for them, and I'm sure that they're not going to end up together.
Yeah, so I think at this point that we are definitely wrapping this series up very soon. I would presume, based on this pacing, there are probably 2 chapters left. I assume one where he actually talks to Honoka, and then a final chapter that closes out the series. Would not be surprised if we get to the next chapter, though, and they're like, that's it, that's the adventure, or whatever. But it does seem like we're getting there. It is very unfortunate that the series is not ending on a particularly strong note. These conversations have been mostly annoying in the way that we've kind of been fortunate enough to avoid in Shonen Jump as of recently when it comes to our romance series. Usually they're either better than this or much, much dumber. And honestly, I prefer one of those kinds of extremes.
One of those, because this was like an attempt at sincerity that, ooh, it did not. You missed the mark. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, it's unfortunate, but it will hopefully be over pretty soon.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how long we've got left. You seem to have much more confidence in the time frame. I don't know. I'm looking at that chapter 93 and thinking to myself, like, are they going to try and just get to 100 and then just close it out there? Because I feel like we do have enough that we could like stretch this out to get to that point. I don't think that would be a good idea, but
very possible. It comes down to the fact that I don't know. I don't think Blue Box is ending in 1 or 2 chapters. I think that there's a little bit longer going out there, but I don't know anything else that like seems like it's that close to like wrapping up. So I don't know.
Let's move over to Kinato's Magic, Chapter 18, Lunar Fighting Festival. We begin things with a little flashback from Tarasu's perspective of her as a kid, and she's doing the makarenge with her mom, who's showing her how to do it, and she explains the makarenge is a dance with 2 people's
makarenge. I had to do it once. Sorry, every time I hear it, it's been in my head. I was like, just do it once, get it out, you know?
Oh man. So just like Phil Collins says, the makarenge is one of the dances where 2 people's hearts become one. And she even explains that you can feel someone's warmth when you touch them like this. Yeah. So Terasu thinks to herself, in the present, it is understandable that a minority group may want to be exclusive at times, but if we want others to understand us, it's important to learn about people and perspectives beyond our own community, although Grandma may not approve of that idea. So yeah, apparently there was a disagreement between her mother and her grandmother, which were all like, village chiefs and stuff like that, over being, like open versus isolated to the outside world. Anyway, Tarasu's in a towel. What can that mean? Hinata's also in a towel. Come on, you guys know how this works at this point. Yeah, they both end up in the baths at the same time. There are only 2 days left in the trial period for Kinato. Tarasu is still trying to do something about these feelings that she doesn't understand, so she initiates physical contact, first by putting her hands on Kinato's shoulders, and then throwing an elbow right at his solar plexus. Girls, this is how you show a guy you like him. Elbow check that dude in the ribs.
Mm-hmm.
But Kinato doesn't, completely fall on his ass this time. He has actually gotten stronger, and he's better at mana control and stuff. So there have been improvements that he has gotten from doing all this month of training and stuff, which Tarasu comments on. Kinato tries to excuse himself from the bath, and Tarasu's like, no, come on, let's hang out. Let's spend time together and stuff. She starts talking about the previous chief, her mother, and she says, yeah, she passed away, but I've been trying to live my life trying to be like her. She's the one who taught me the makarenge. And then she goes on about how they disagree with each other. And she says, grandmother was hot-blooded and at times cruel. But because I trusted my mother, my path came naturally to me. And she's like, I realize now, like, I can't just be my mother. I lack her capacity and her strength and her spirit. But she's just like, yeah, I realize I'm getting, like, really kind of personal with you, but I feel like, we're going to be parting soon, so I just wanted to tell you all of this. Which, given that, like, the means of the test it was
The
going to be like, we're
rules,
going
the
to use you as a
conditions.
resource. Yeah, our condition was you're going to be a resource. It seems like she's very confident he's going to pass at this stage now.
Yeah. I think the fact
She
that he's
doesn't
made it
explicitly say
this
that.
long seems to give her that indication.
Yeah. And she's like, we're going to, like, kind of like forget each other at the end of all this. So just don't worry about what I just said, basically. But Kinato says, like, hey, the ties between us aren't going to disappear, Lady Tarasu. I would never let that happen. And he says, it's the same as the feelings that you have for your mother. The time that you spend with someone and the memories you share with them become etched into who you are. So even if you're apart, no matter where you are, I think you're still connected. And, like, the sun is shining in the background and stuff. This has a deep impact on Tarasu. Whoever she interprets this as him basically having just proposed marriage to her. So
And it makes sense why Jien was not wrong in his description of marriage. But we are able to see, like, oh, well, that's where the miscommunication comes. But for her, she's like, nope, I've been proposed to. We are wed.
I'm getting very Princess Ruto vibes off of this. Like, two people swimming in a pool together, and one inadvertently makes a comment that the other thinks is a marriage proposal. Like, anyway, she collapses face down in the bath for a funny visual. That was funny. But then we cut away from that because it's time for the Lunar Festival. We get an explanation that when a halo encircles the moon, the Majo village is illuminated more brightly than usual. Once every 10 years, the moon's halo appears as a double ring, and the village is swept up in the excitement of an age-old tradition, a grand festival where the Majo display their pride and test the full measure of their power, the Lunar Fighting Festival! And we immediately start off with two of them cross-countering each other in the face.
What stance were they both in where they managed to do this? Where they're both punching each other, kind of, completely sideways body turn.
Yeah, it's got to both be Hitman style boxing, where it's like there's completely open guards.
Yeah.
Like, come at me, bro. Yeah. So everyone is watching these two ladies beat the shit out of each other. One of them eventually emerges victorious, as the narration explains. Through demonstrations, sparring matches, and various other events, the Majos showcase their cultivated techniques and combat prowess, spurring each other to greater heights. And hey, Kinato and Jien are guests there as well. And then we are introduced to the moderator of the event, the MC, Rekka. Yeah, that's right. We've got our own Dark World Tournament Animal Girl announcer for this event as well.
Wait, is she an animal?
No. I'm making her Yu Yu Hakusho reference.
But I need to be sure she's not an animal girl.
Okay, well, I'll leave you to check on that. So
I don't see
humans are animals.
Good point. She is a sapien person. That makes sense.
A sapient person. So, Rekka announces that the highlight of the Lunar Fighting Festival is about to begin, the Majo Hunt. And she explains that, yes, all 5 districts are going to be the stage for this event. Majo will be sent out at random, and they must each seek each other out and engage in combat. Incapacitate your opponent and earn 1 point. The first Majo to win 20 points is the winner. And so Jien at first is like, oh, all right, yeah, cool, fun event. Probably got kicked out before he got to experience this the last time he was here. But a couple of dragons suddenly swoop down, grab he and Kinato by the shoulders, and pick them up and start to carry them off. As is explained that, yeah, so participating Majo are going to fight through the qualifying rounds along with the captains of the guard for each district. If you manage to take down the captains, you might just earn the right to replace them. And we do see that there is a southern captain, although their face is hidden by something. I have no idea how to describe this, and it's not very fully visible. But there is something that Rekka is going over, and she's like, "Oh, there's some sort of special exception here." And Tarasu says, "I have received permission from all participating Majo for tonight. I am sorry to any Majo who has been uneasy the past month. After agonizing over the matter, there is only one way I can think of to settle everyone's grievances. I will allow the criminal GN and my sworn partner Kinato to participate." And Kinato's like, "Wait, what? Sworn part what?"
What was that last thing?
And of course, Karyu and Latna are like, "What? Wait, when did this happen?" A whole bunch of them start freaking out. Tarasu's very embarrassed, but is like going forward with this. And she's like, "Yeah, Kinato, show everyone the results of your training. You're my future companion, so you better win, or I'll be very disappointed." Kinato's like, "What is happening? I did not."
I don't understand. Everyone just got grabbed by this dragon. Now everyone's saying they're married to me.
And of course, the village of all women, they're kind of like, "Wait, what does that mean?" And one of them is like, "It means a mated pair." And everyone just thinks of their apparently only reference for romantic.
They're like, dragons fuck.
Dragons fuck.
My favorite panel is the one of Jin being dropped off, where he's like, "You sly dog, Kinato."
"Took my eyes off you for just a little bit, and you made it with the chief. Yeah."
I'm like, Jin, this is mostly your fault.
So Kinato gets dumped off somewhere in the forest within the village, and the announcement is the criminal GN and the sworn partner Kinato are both worth 10 points each. So if you defeat one of them, you automatically get half your points in order to win the whole thing. But unfortunately, Kinato's been dropped off right in front of a whole bunch of Majo, and they're like, "We're going to get this guy. How dare you take advantage of Lady Tarasu like that?" So yeah, they're after him. Immediately, Kinato reacts instinctively and channels his boosting power with Seitai to launch himself up into the air to try and get away to safety. And so the Majo hunt has kicked off. Hooray.
Yeah, this chapter is very fun. I really enjoy the twist. I like how wholeheartedly Tarasu is going into like well, he proposed to me, so this is my sworn partner. This is my future companion. Like we are locked together eternally from here on forward. So I will present that going forward to everyone and anyone. And I don't know, the humor was just very good. I like Kinato's design where we have these sort of rings of magic appear on him as he's using his Seitai magic. That was just really, really good all around.
Yeah, I love that Tarasu is clearly very embarrassed about all this, but she is also like, "I'm going to announce my proposal to the whole village before my alleged fiance."
I'm almost going to be heartbroken when at some point they clear up this misunderstanding. I'm almost like, no, I mean, you guys kind of are a cute couple when you think about it.
They have good chemistry.
Yeah.
I like their dynamic. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, unfortunately, right now, Quinn, someone hurts out there.
Oh, no.
So
we should help them.
Yeah, we should talk about them. We should help them by talking about this contest that Mime is participating in. Chapter 36 of Someone Hurts, Mime Fukumori's Radio Days, Part 2. It's the one-liner submission rookie round, and so Mime is going over stuff, and he's like, "Okay, I've gotten one entry read so far," and then he just thinks to himself, like, "At a time like this, I'll bet the Mizuo would say," and like he immediately imagines not just a shoulder angel and devil version of Mime, but just like another Mizuo just like hanging off of his ear, just being there and acting like the regular Mizuo, because she's like, "Calm down. People hold grudges, but pork buns always meet in the middle."
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of like what she would say in this. Yeah, that's kind of accurate. Yeah. So he goes in and starts writing in another submission, and we get a shot of that was a reader submitted idea for the cover of Mizuo and Mime enjoying the full moon as Mizuo is turning into a werewolf. It's cute. We get noise cancellation. Guy realizing that, like, okay, Mime's gotten one read off, but I've gotten 3, so it's okay. He gets a message, however, from Mokomo that just says, "Your entries are funny. Keep it up." And he's like, "Shut up. Mokumo is meanwhile at home, huddled under her blanket, and is like, "Oh man, if my Ray-chan keeps up this pace, he should win." Her sisters are in the room too, and they're just like, "Shut up! It's 3:30 in the morning. Shut up! How do you listen to this show live when you don't have your own room?"
It is.
Oh my god,
crazy. And also, is she even wearing headphones?
Yes.
Okay,
you
she
can
is.
just make
Yeah,
out an earbud.
Yeah,
Yes.
there is. Yeah, that is wild to be doing this when you're like, oh, my two younger siblings are also in the room, and I'm kind of keeping them up as well.
Yeah. We see that Nachi is listening to stuff and to the event as well with her hair down. So presumably she just kind of like puts it up for work and stuff. We get the producer of Mon Mid looking over entries and is like, and we get a new submission from Hime. The cicada was a human in a past life. How can you tell? It chirps in 575. I found that to be much better than the previous jokes that we saw in the last chapters. So that's Hime's next one. And the producer's just kind of noticing, like, oh man, like this Al Woods guy's like, there's another submission from him. There's another submission from him. And Mime has just got the attitude of like, look, I don't stand a chance if I'm just precise with every single entry on this. So I'm just going to put them in sheer numbers. I'm not going to let myself be beat in this. I've been sending in stuff every week for 3.5 years. So yeah, he's just going to keep on putting stuff in. And that's the only attitude that you can really have. And we see that he's getting, more entries put in. Ray gets another one entered in. We get some from this guy, Doki Doki Jamon Doki, which is a wild thing to have to say every single time. Their first submission is, that cicada is sounding off as loud as baseball kids at Koshin in midsummer. Too bad it's baseball and not cricket. It's a joke because of bugs. Yeah.
Nick's like, this was a bug-themed joke, so I didn't like it.
Kill it. And then they do another one, which is, that cicada is sounding off as loud as baseball. And Ray is like, here's, and it's just like, what the hell? This is just like ignoring the prompt. But Mime instead adjusts and just like puts one in there. It's like, yeah, cicada butts in during our talk. That your laugh makes your hair bug out. And Ray is just kind of like, fucking, I had a joke that had a bug pun in it. I sent it in right away. What gives? Oh my, wouldn't you know it? This was set up from the beginning, Quinn, all the way back when Mizuo advised Mime that he needed to have a fucking actual proper radio to listen to the show instead of using apps because there was more of a lag. And we see that, there was like an entry that he had that was just like arrived like 1 minute ahead of Ray's because of that delay. And so Mime is getting, on a hot streak. He's getting more stuff read off. He's like, oh man, what do? I've got to keep on going. Mizuo is listening to the show and she's really ecstatic over this. She's like dancing on her bed, sees herself in the mirror and is like, yeah, good job, Mime.
Very good. Excellent.
So Ray's like, okay, come on. I got to calm down and think what's been getting read based on the most recent trend. And Mime is also at the kind of point of like, maybe I should do a longer post, but oh man, if it bombs, then I don't know. Okay, I can't overthink it. They might be funny from an outsider perspective. I just got to remember what Mizuo said. And he thinks what Mizuo said. Fujiyame ain't gonna break my stride. Fujikaze ain't gonna slow me down. And Mime's like, no, not that. That has nothing to do with the matter at hand. And instead, he remembers the advice Mizuo gave, which is just get out there and be silly. Yeah, nice, very nice callback to their earlier chapter when they were trying to get Mime more comfortable for during their summer activities and stuff. Mime keeps on doing submissions until they hit time up for the whole event. It's 4 in the fucking morning, and the announcement goes off. Rookie one-line round is over, and they tally the results. And yep. After that, they announce, starting from third place, noise-canceling junkie. Ray didn't even come in second.
Ooh.
That Doki Doki guy that got an answer off is in second place. And so the winner of this season's rookie round is... I mean, it's kind of clear, but we're going to leave you in suspense for a bit.
They're like, an untold third party that isn't relevant.
Ray
our number one winner always and eternally, George Carlin, everybody.
That's right, from beyond the grave.
I just love that bit about the words you can't say on television, so I give him some points every time.
Yeah, they had nothing to do with cicadas or anything like that, but
yeah, he knew us, we knew him. It was a close relationship.
Ray realizes that he just kind of like got swept away in the last stretch. So as the momentum was kind of shifting and the trends were shifting in the contest, he could not adjust to it. Is basically the indication. So he's like, all right, well, but that's kind of just it for me and Monmid. Then I'll try and be a challenger on the program with that one YouTuber that Mokomo-chan likes instead. But on the Longhost podcast, they make the observation of like, oh, hey, this third placer guy, he said in his very first entry last month, that's a heck of a batting average. He was really funny. And so he's like, shut up. Mimei cannot go to sleep. After the end of all of that, he gets a message from Mizuo at 5:45 in the morning, so almost 2 hours after the whole show is over. And she says, hey, let's meet up. And he gets to the park that they've, met up a few times, but then realizes she didn't actually tell me where we were supposed to meet up. I should text her that I'm here. But Mizuo taps him on the shoulder, and of course she's there too. And there is a reference that they make that I do not understand in the slightest. So Mizuo just says, I had to tell you in person, congrats, my proud disciple. And yep, we get the official announcement that the rookie round winner is Al in the Woods. And victory pose. May puts his hands up. Mizuo does a full, freeze frame little hop in the air. It's very cute.
Yep. Perfectly cromulent way to end this little arc. It's interesting to have to see a series about comedy punchlines need to do a competition in this kind of way. I do feel like there was something similar to this in Showa Shoten, where they were on a radio show and they had to submit things as fast as possible. So it's unique to see that here. I don't love this chapter as much as the other ones, where they'll speak more about sort of the human element, or it's cute and adorable watching them connect with one another. But it was still fun, and I'm glad Bimei's hard work paid off.
Yeah, hopefully this will lead into the next chapter of hey, Mizuo made the observation of Mimei's going to be tied with me if he wins this whole thing, and that kind of had a meaning to her in terms of what their personal relationship was going to be. But hopefully, in general, we'll just get back to the two of them getting to interact, because that's the real highlight of this series, is just the dynamic the two of them share.
Until next week, when it's announced the intermediate tournament in Monmid is going on, and that's coming up soon.
There's weight divisions for this one random podcast.
The podcast is coming up next is our featherweight classic. This is where all your favorite comedy entry people underneath 110 pounds are able to submit that. And dang, these are children. They're all going to be under that.
And don't forget, next month is our hardcore stipulations competition, where everyone is allowed to go into each other's homes and assault each other.
They were calling it the Purge Rules Championship. You could just do whatever.
All right. Ultimate X's Kiyoshi, Chapter 95, A New Trial. Kiyoshi and everybody are leaving the Demon Realm, finally. Hydriko is come and visit me sometime and stuff. But Yamada goes and he gives Kiyoshi a big hug and says, you really have become a great exorcist. You saved my life so many times. But Kiyoshi says, hey, I should be thanking you. Thanks to your courage and everyone else's, I was able to get back on my feet. And Yamada takes Kiyoshi's hand in his and says, look, we're probably never going to see each other again. We'll see. But please never forget this one thing. No matter how far apart we are, there's a demon who thinks of you like you were his own son. Aw. And Kiyoshi says, all right, I'm going to keep on doing my best. Big, happy goodbye between everyone and the demons. And they get in the phone booth in order to leave. But before they actually fully depart, they spot a big banner in the background as Bobo and Bub and his two non-Bobo kids are riding around on this big fire-breathing dragon thing with a banner that says Demon Realm Protectors Forever, and they wish them a big happy departure. Shishido, is like, I hope Bub realizes that's kind of a bad look for a demon lord to be doing. But then he reflects on an earlier conversation that they had and how, Bub was saying, like, Kiyoshi's a very different kind of exorcist. And the crest on his back, it's the same as Solomon's. Solomon being the first ever exorcist. Either way, he's sure to become an exorcist who will change both demon and human history. And Shishido agrees. We then catch up a bit with Bobo, who is, just kind of like brooding by himself. Of course he is. And a bunch of random weak demons come up to him and say, hey, are you really going to lend us power again, even though we're so weak now? And Bobo remembers what Kiyoshi told him, of course, about the lessons that he should have learned from his mother. And he says, yeah, without interest this time.
Aww.
Hey, he didn't die, and he grew as a person and stuff.
Yeah, right? Good for him.
So, we cut back to the human world in Naraku City. Oh my gosh, we're back at the Gates of Hell restaurant with characters that we haven't seen in so long. And
gotta love the meta joke that we open with as well.
It was only a week, but it feels like we haven't seen you in 8 months. That's like 4 volumes in manga terms.
I really did get a good laugh out of that.
Akari, however, has a bit of a disappointed look on her face, and she looks accusingly at Kiyoshi and is like, you didn't do anything reckless, did you? No. Definitely did. Before Akari can get super mad at him, Mr. Sakaki goes over and says, like, hey, how was the Demon Realm? Asks about his experience for a bit. They make some food, celebrate off page because we already had a big celebration in the previous chapter. They get a bunch of the details about what's the stuff that happened in the previous one. And Akari's like, is it okay for you to, like, tell us all the stuff that happened? Like, the fact that Shishido has, like, a friendship with one of the demon lords? But Kiyoshi says, oh, no, Mr. Shishido told me that it was okay. He said, like, hey, your boss is Sakaki, right? You can tell him what happened. And Sakaki says, like, yeah, that sounds like him. Having met the cross-paladin Goro Shishido, though, what were your impressions? And Kiyoshi just says, he's a free spirit, he's unconventional, and way OP, but he's also someone who's full of love. I feel from the bottom of my heart that I want to become a cross-paladin like him. But Nehan says that there's something very important that Kiyoshi has forgotten. Finals. Kiyoshi's like, finals? And Akari's like, it's no big deal if you flunk a few. And they're like, no, he can't do that. That's bad if he does that. Because Sosuke explains Naraka High is actually a very strict school when it comes to failing grades. Any student who fails even one subject must spend every day of summer break taking remedial classes, summer festivals, ghost stories, trips to the beach, mountains and rivers, summer vacation. It'll all be beyond your reach. And also, Kiyoshi's not that smart.
It took me a moment, too, to be like, why does Kiyoshi care? Until I remember, like, the start of this series, the entire thing was Kiyoshi wants to go to a normal school and, like... Yep. Have those memories. I was like, didn't he save the world? Why do you need to worry about what school you're going to be getting into? Like, F them. I'd just drop out at this point and be like, I saved the world twice.
Nope, he wants to have, like, normal high school and summer memories with, like, his non-powered friends that we've only seen a few times, but that are very important to him. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we have a bit of a freak out moment of that. And then we cut over to the Exorcist Association HQ Parabellum. And Shishido is back in headquarters after, of course, being missing during the previous meeting that we got to see. He is asked about that, so the head of the association notes, like, look, we can't make the escapade that you had in the Demon Realm public, but it was a noble cause. And Shishido says, look, it wasn't just me, it was the Demon Realm protectors as a whole. And so he says, well, there's a reason that, like, I called you here that actually relates to that. And Shishido says, well, I knew you to go there. Kuragane's seat is empty, right? In that case, I have a proposal. I recommend Kiyoshi Hirai for the position of Cross Paladin. If not for him, we would have been wiped out. His strength is certified punk. But above all else, his earnest spirit made allies out of demons. To be honest, I was moved. He's special. A man of love and peace like him has to become a cross paladin. And the head of the association is like, yeah, that's actually what I called your review about. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. And so we get the final decision, which is that with Shishido being the tie-breaking vote, Kiyoshi is appointed as a cross paladin.
Hey, I legit forgot that this was part of the plot before we went into that arc. It's been so long. So when they came out, I was like, oh yeah, they needed Shishido's vote to break the tie break.
Yeah, this was a much better paced arc, I would say, in general. It lasted a while. It did, but it did not drag its feet. It felt like at any point we got a lot of exciting fights. And we got some character development for a few different people, and we got introduced to a couple of cool new characters. Shishido in particular, it seems like, is going to play a big role as a supporting character in the future. Yeah, so we will see what shape or form Kiyoshi's promotion is going to take, and what that means for his future. And if he's going to be able to be a normal high school student, if with that too.
Very true. Yeah, very, very excited for where we're going to go in the future. I really enjoyed this arc, and I enjoy this as like a nice, hey, let's close out this loop that we started the story with by, graduating Kiyoshi to Cross Paladin, which we all kind of knew he was at the level for at this point.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on over to Marriagetoxin, chapter 168. In case you forgot Himi's whole deal, here's a helpful recap for you.
I wonder why we might need this, Nick. Why?
Oh, man. It's like she only was in one arc and hasn't had any follow-up since then, while all this other stuff's been happening. She hasn't gotten to, like, make appearances in other people's adventures and stuff because she's not, a specialist, and so she can't just show up for them.
Although her best friend did get her own arc, so she could have shown up during that.
It would have been nice, I feel like, if she had shown up in a supporting role for that, but nope. So we get, a reintroduction of like, yeah, she was in this bad situation where she was being coerced into a marriage. The ghost user showed up and made things bad, but in the end, she settled things on her own through her own strength. And also, she had a cool skull and crossbones earring. Wasn't that nice? But Gero says that he has not heard from her recently while trying to contact her. He says she might tell me off for showing up at her place uninvited and call me a creep, but I am worried about her. And both Kimie and Ushio are reacting to like all this word about the way that Himi acts, and Kimie is like, "Oh, so Gero's into that kind of girl, huh?"
He kind of likes being told what to do a little bit. All right, he likes being degraded. All right, I can, I'll keep note of that for the future.
Ushio just makes the very direct observation, like, she sounds like a lot to handle. And Gero does like have the guilty thought of like, she can be a bit much sometimes. But his words in response are, she's shown me worlds that I never knew existed. She is straightforward and honest and a genuinely good person. And from there, Ushio and Kimi are like, all right, yeah, if you think that way about her, work it with her. And they're going to help out. So they ring the intercom to try and be let into Himi's big old house. Nobody responds. So Ushio and Gero look like they're going to do something, but then Kimie takes action. She unleashes all of her hamsters to scout out the place and check for danger. And their report back is that there seems to be one person inside, although they can't tell if it's Himi or not, which makes sense. Kimie's never met Himi, doesn't know anything about her beyond what Gero has told her. So, but Gero, of course, understands, like, what if Natsu's in there? What if he has cleared the place out? And that's why there's only one person inside. But Ushio steps forward and she says, all right, come on, we can't be worrying about us about this at this point. Let's go. We came here to do something. The door is unlocked. They go inside. The lights are all off. It's spooky in there. And Ushio is immediately like clinging onto Gero's shoulder because, yeah, she hates spooky stuff. And Kimie is immediately a little bit like, oh, I want to do that too. And Gero's like, oh, right, you freak out with scary things. And Ushio's like, I'm fine. But then we get a poster for Bourgeoisie which is Himi's favorite band, which features the sound user. And then there's just like everyone realizing like there were like household staff and stuff here before. What happened to them? But as they go around a corner, Garo's flashlight illuminates the form of Himi very briefly, and she looks over her shoulder at him, looking very kind of coldly. But she immediately sets off, goes through a door, and Garo goes through the door, and oh no, there are so many dolls in there. There are so many of them.
I'm just gonna lock this door after lighting a match and throwing it into the room and just let God sort this out.
Absolutely. So they all turn their eyes on Garo and company, and Ushio and Kimie are like, "Oh, this is bad." And Kimie is like, "These weren't here earlier," because of course she's scouted the place out before. One of the dolls clunks over. Of course, Himi was a doll, and it wasn't the real her. But then she looks up at Garo and says, "I guess I'm really just an afterthought, huh?" Oh.
Look, there is no way to do this arc other than to address the fact that, like, there are supposed to be 6 love interests for Garo, and 5 of them have been very important to the plot recently, and the 6th one just hasn't.
Yeah. So Garo sees that and then realizes, like, oh, it's just a doll, of course. It doesn't even have, like, markings indicating that's supposed to look like Himi anymore. But then he's like, all right, we got to get out of this room in order to get some. And he turns to look at Ushio and Kimie, and a bunch of strings have come from out of nowhere and are puppeting them around. And it looks like Kimie has been replaced fully by a doll. You can see like joints in her arms and stuff. So at some point, the two of them were seemingly swapped places with doll replacements. Gasp.
Terrifying. It's good we get our Himi arc, and as I said, it's good we're addressing the elephant in the proverbial room. Cool stuff. We'll see what happens from here. I want Shark Girl to show back up again, please. It's been so long since I've thought about sharks.
It's I don't know if things keep going in this direction, it might be that like we're just going to head to like a final confrontation with Nasu. Like we might just like fully skip over stuff with Himi if things keep going in this direction, which I think would be unfortunate. I feel like it's very important to reestablish who she is and stuff before we just jump into, and all of them are there. So
I think there is going to be some wrinkle to this. We saw in the previous chapter there was a shot of like Himi hanging around her house, and I do get the vibe that we weren't supposed to be like, oh, and that's a doll. Like I do think that's legitimately her. So there might be something going on where like the dolls are in the house, but she's found a way to kind of avoid them, or I don't know. I feel like there's some wrinkle we haven't quite gotten to yet that's gonna help kind of expand this story a little bit more. All right, Nick. Sexorcist time.
New Sexorcist, chapter 148, My Own Power. All right, so Quinn, get this. Nue went into the bath and flustered Gakuro by starting to wash his back while she has something very important to talk to him about. Oh, wow, new Sexorcist, you're always, getting all these serious moments in silly context, aren't you? It's, oh boy. And she's got an idea on how they can defeat Kasha, a way that Gakuro can get stronger, but she says it's going to be hard to level up enough to beat Kasha in the time we have left, so I have a suggestion. And in the meantime, she's like fully just like washing Gakuro's back, and he's eventually like, stop washing me with your bare hands! Because he's, I don't know, germophobic? I don't know. So she's like, your back's looking really good these days. And she slaps him in the shoulder blades with her hands. And so he spins around and is like, enough already. And for some reason tries to grab at her torso and fully gropes her boob. Oh, Gakuro, you're such a harem protagonist. Oh, you.
Oh, you scamp.
He insists that he was trying to grab her hand, which I don't know how you can possibly miss grabbing someone's hand when it is directly against your back. But he somehow managed to go 2 feet further and make a motion that would not be helpful for him grabbing her hand, but would be helpful for grabbing a boob.
Yeah.
So Nue is just like, you really have grown strong. Transition. But she says, I fully intend to keep counting on you. And Gakuro says, what is this other way to defeat Kasha? And Nue says, all right, I'll tell you. But then Gakuro starts realizing that his head feels kind of fuzzy. And Nue says, the other way is for me to fight him alone. And Gakuro looks up in confusion, but at that moment, a whole bunch of people come in full Exorcist uniforms and boots and stuff. And it is the captains, and it is almost everyone in Gakuro's squad.
I wanted to keep going because it's like, the captains are here and all my friends. And she's like, also Zeno's here.
And he's there too.
Also, that lady you had your first crush on when you were 8, I brought her in too. Also, your dad, back from the dead, solely for this scene so he can witness your humiliation up close. Who else?
Also, Kasha's here to see this too.
Kasha, we asked, and he said he was cool with showing up here.
I will not miss this, no. So, again, and I want to reiterate, Nue and Gakuro are both in towels and nothing else because they were just in the baths together. And all these people show up in full uniform for this to take place. And Gakuro looks around, not flustered in the slightest, and goes, what are you doing here? And he's like, naming them off, all the captains whose names we've forgotten, and the rest of you, for, all the girls that aren't the focus of this arc. And then he's like, I feel weirdly sleepy. And Nue says, it's all right. Your body's just desperate for rest. I'm sorry, Gakuro. I just removed my power from you. You won't be able to fight as an exorcist anymore. I'm going to go through this whole sequence without comment. You are free to interject. I'm going to save all my comments for the end of the chapter, Quinn.
Okay.
So, Nue, now her hand is glowing with dark energy.
You said I could interject whatever. So. Okay.
And she says, your hard work made this power grow, and I'll use it to resurrect myself. So go back to living as an ordinary human. And then Captain Igari says, Gakuro Yajima, since you have lost your power, it won't be possible for you to perform your duties. Therefore, as of today, you're relieved of your post as captain of the 6th branch. Your squad members will be picked up by different branches. And from now on, you'll be... And Gakuro interrupts and shouts, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense! And he gets up and grabs Nue. And again, they're both naked except they've got towels on while everyone is in uniform looking at them while this very serious moment is happening.
You will not convince me that there is not some small part of this that Nue was like, I'm going to kind of humiliate him a little bit. I want him to kind of feel like a little worm.
It's crucial that my powers grow as much as possible by feeding off of my fetish for humiliating boys. So Gakuro demands an explanation of Nue. We get the one word that any of his squad mates say in this whole chapter, which is Shitotsu saying, Gakuro, and that's it. And then Gakuro says, remember what you said? You swore you'd make me the ultimate warrior!
I barely had time to shake any ropes!
Where's my face paint?
I've never done a body splash!
Where's a small child that I can hate for no reason?
Did he? Did he hate children?
The Ultimate Warrior, there is an infamous clip of backstage footage that they put in a DVD because, they hated the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And there was this one kid who I think had special needs who wanted to meet him. And the Ultimate Warrior was like, no, I don't want to meet that kid. And they were like, all right, you have upset this fan of ours who did nothing wrong. We want you to film an apology. And so they're making him in character film an apology. And he keeps on getting upset that he has to film this apology to this small child.
Oh, my Lord.
Anyway, so Ultimate Warrior sucked. Anyway, so he demands of Nue, what about your promise? And Nue just looks at him and says, I'm sorry. And Gakuro is on the verge of collapsing because all of this power has been sucked away from him. And he says, I'm not giving up. I'll say it as often as I have to. Give that power back. I'll fight with you. And then he falls unconscious.
All right, now he's unconscious. Let's laugh at the size of his dick, everybody.
Yep. Captain Igari catches him as he falls over, just puts him fully under her arm, and says, thank you for your invaluable service. Gakuro passes out. We immediately go to him waking up in a futon in their headquarters. He tries to get up immediately, falls on his face because we're not done with this boy yet. You ain't getting off. You ain't getting off yet. Kathy, I think is her name, shows up and says, "Yeah, you can't really move fully yet. Your body is not used to being able to work without Nue's power. So just rest for now." And Gakuro's like, "Nue is going to fight on her own, but Kasha, Nue doesn't stand a chance by herself." And Kathy explains that Nue is planning to destroy Kasha by sacrificing herself. And Gakuro looks at her miserably, so she says, "Don't look at me like that. She was planning to do it all along. Kasha can interfere with dimensions. He can't be erased through normal means." I don't know. It seemed like they were doing a great
I was like,
job
it seemed
before.
seemed like they were really close to eliminating him, I don't know, a day ago.
Now that he is involved, we have to pick up the pace. Don't worry, Nue can take him out, specifically because you grew even faster than she anticipated. And Gakuro's really pissed off because he's like, "Nue never meant to let me fight. She was planning to sacrifice herself all along. What was that about not sacrificing a single person? What was that?" And he remembers the promise he made to Shitatsu, promising that no one was going to die. That's the kind of captain he would become. And he collapses to the ground. His fists are clenched, and he says, "I haven't done a thing. In the end, Nue was pulling my strings the whole time. Not even one. I haven't managed to save a single person yet." I don't know. I don't like you, dude, but it feels like your track record's actually been pretty damn good on that front.
I was going to say, you've saved at least multiple people at this point, beyond, like, the fact that you've saved towns from being destroyed by Hyo. Yeah, whatever. I'm not here to glaze up Gakuro.
Right. So he's all upset. Kathy says, "Either way, your part in this ends here. So what now?" And Gakuro's body starts to tremble. And he says, "I haven't finished a thing yet. Even if my duty's over as far as Nue is concerned, I made several promises of my own, and I'm going to keep them. I'll get there myself without Nue." And he stands up, and his eye glows, and he says, "I'll use my own power to save everyone and become the ultimate warrior."
Dun 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 dun.
So Gakuro thinks, "I'm going to save everyone, even you, Nue." And Kathy looks at Gakuro and she goes, "I knew it. There's still some sort of power in you." Yeah, steroids. "You're going to keep going? Nue is going to yell at you." And Gakuro looks at her and says, "Well, come get yelled at with me, please." She told you not to tell me any of that stuff, didn't she?" And Kathy goes, "Nee." And then she says, "Booze isn't going to taste right without my drinking buddy." She wants to save Nue too. That's the point. So she says, "Hey, so what's your plan? How are you going to get stronger?" And Gakuro says, "Nue once told me that there is command energy sealed inside me." And so he goes off and meets up with Captain Sumeragi, who gives him a ride somewhere. And he says, "I need to find out more about that seal. I'm sorry to ask you to do this when you're so busy, Captain Sumeragi." And Sumeragi just says, "Hey, I live to drive."
What?
All right. Fucking random comment.
All right. He's like, "Nothing I love more than long road trips. In fact, I really should have been a truck driver instead of a ghost samurai," but...
Then they both talk about "Oh, maybe I'll say this cliche line when the seal breaks." Like you have any right to make comments about cliches in shonen manga. Fucking new sexist, Jesus. But Sumeragi says, "We might not have the time or energy to spend on stuff like that," as they make their way to the Class 1 spirit-contaminated region, Yajima Family Land. Oh my gosh, Quinn, it is the land that Gakuro's family had, where there's a spirit and stuff somehow. So maybe the attack on his father and stuff is a thing that sealed command energy inside him, and he needs to unlock his own power. Okay. Did you have any thoughts on this chapter before I go off on a rant about it?
I mean, my main thought was that this is incredibly stupid. I'm not necessarily in the camp that's like, we could never do this, but there is no build up to it. And this is a move that does not work without a lot of appropriate build up. Everyone has to kind of act a little out of character for this scene to work. all of Gakuro's harem girls who are so ride or die for him have nothing to say in the scene where Nue is taking the power away. None of them are trying to defend Gakuro's agency. None of them want to say anything about how Gakuro can get stronger, how they've always believed in him, how there's like suddenly there's now a wall Gakuro can't break through with Katsa or whatever his name is. Yeah. Kasha. And there's ultimately this moment where I'm just like, is this also even like a real plot? Is this all just a Nue plan to get Gakuro even stronger? We just had to make him feel desperate, and that'll help let him unlock his own personal power to expand the Nue power. Like, I don't know. That just feels like
that's my current theory. Is that, yes, this is all a deception. This is all another gambit by Nue, where she's doing a little deception on Gakuro so that he'll grow on his own in a way that he wouldn't if she were more direct with him instead. And, like, it's been established that Gakuro's powers grow stronger based off of his emotions. So maybe she's doing this to get him emotional enough that, more of his powers will unlock. So if that's the case, yeah, I mean, duh. Like, and if it's not the case, well, then what the fuck are you doing with any of this? And I don't like, I know I am definitely a proponent typically of, if there is an obvious story choice, you generally should do that story choice. But sometimes if you are in a situation where there is one obvious option that's just kind of like the standard, and then the alternative is really stupid, that's not a good situation to leave the audience with, because it's between two choices of like, are you really going to do this? If so, then that's bad. Or are you really going to do this? If not, then, well, yeah, we knew you wouldn't. And it's not even like a cool thing that you're doing anyway. It's just kind of like doing the same thing over again. I have 10 questions about this whole situation that happened.
All right.
Quinn.
I want to hear them.
Number one, why did this have to happen in the bathroom? Why did this very serious moment of emotional betrayal happen when they were fucking naked? What is going on?
Like, the scene starts with Gakuro accidentally grabbing her breast, and then has to continue on afterwards.
I'm afraid I have to take your power away. Like, I'm sorry, I caught the feel. Oh my god!
Usually you don't get this mad.
It's not my fault. You've seen it happen to me so many times.
Usually
I effectively encouraged it even.
Usually I get stronger when this happens. Usually I get a new power.
Question number 2. Why isn't Suo saying anything? Like, there has been so many things where she has had to, like, she has established, like, she is fully on board with Gakuro. She is, like, his most loyal person. She has been fighting with her own feelings for him this entire goddamn series. Question number 3. Why isn't Shiroha saying anything? This is the guy who saved her from her doomed fate as part of the Fujo family, where she was going to be a tool that was used up and destroyed, and that was going to be it. Also, we haven't followed up on the fact that Kasha was responsible for any of that. She is still not competent on it at all. We've gotten no word from her since that reveal happened. Number 4. Why isn't Shitotsu saying anything? Her introduction in the series was as someone who doubted Gakuro's power and then learned that she could rely on him to get stronger and be their leader. If anyone should be saying anything about this, it's her, and her only line was Gakuro when he was getting uppity about stuff. Number 5. Why isn't Machida saying anything? 2 arcs ago, Gakuro got a huge power-up, killed a Hyo, and saved her life. Number 6, why isn't Aramine saying anything? That's her husband, she says, who again killed her kind of mom, who was a Hyo to do this. Number 7, why isn't Natsuki saying anything? The entire reason she's fucking here is because of Gakuro. She should be stationed somewhere else, and she is moved away from her station, supplying command energy to everyone because that she is part of Gakuro's group. Number 8. Where's Sujita? She's not an important character, but she's the biggest simp for Gakuro and the whole team, and she's not even there for any of this? What's going on with that? Number 9. Where's Gekka? Gekka in the last chapter said she was going to train specifically Gakuro and Natsuki to get stronger than Kasha. What happened to that plan? Does she have anything to say about any of this? Number 10. What the fuck is going to happen to Yozora? Yozora is a manifestation of Gakuro and Nue's power. She is, for all intents and purposes, Gakuro's daughter. What happens when his power gets sapped out of him and goes back to Nue? Does she cease to exist? Did you just kill someone by doing this?
Great questions, all of them. I'll try to legitimately address one of them, which is I've seen the argument made. I'm not saying this is my argument, but I have seen the argument made that the girls are trying to go along with it simply because this is the way that keeps Gakuro the most safe. But my immediate thought to that is but they all also believe that he can do it. Isn't that the point that's been established over and over again, is that Gakuro continuously proves everyone wrong when they think that he can't do it, he does? And nothing's happened to change that. They were beating Kasha. He only got away because someone else intervened.
This was not a fight that would make anyone think, oh, we can't win. If you want to have that happen, you need to have the story beat where Gakuro literally can't beat the guy. Not, oh, well, we lost Gekka's power and she's responsible for it. It's like, yeah, but when Gakuro hit the guy, he nearly killed him. So clearly you have the potential to beat the guy. And everyone was acting as if they believed that one chapter ago. They were all fully on board with the plan of Gekka will train us to get better and we will be able to do this. Everyone was fine with this. No one expressed any doubt of any kind. And if the assumption is that all of them are doing this to protect Gakuro, okay, fine. But the fact that none of them are saying anything to justify their position in the current context makes it feel as if the entire series up to this point, which was all about him growing bonds with any of them, all of which had a effect of him getting stronger as a result, meant nothing because they don't actually believe in him any more than before. And if this is all a deception, which I think it is, the fact that Gakuro thinks that they all turned their backs on him means he's still got no fucking self-confidence in himself. He doesn't believe that they believe in him.
Yeah, there's so many problems that are ultimately wrong with this, because even if they are oh, this was a trick to make you get better without Nue's help, I'd be legit super mad at my friends afterwards, where I'd be you didn't trust me enough to just tell me that I needed to do something on my own, that I needed to have my power temporarily removed so I could get stronger with my own powers and not rely on Nue's or something like that, which again, not the conflict that was the issue with Kasha. It's that he wasn't fast enough or some shit, some generic anime power-up nonsense. I don't know. It just feels like no one is going to come out of this looking better. Nue is I don't know, kind of a puck level mischief maker at times. So I guess she can kind of get away from it because she's hot or whatever.
We expect this of her.
Yeah,
at this point,
she's a shit stirrer in her own ways. But all of his friends, who none of them said anything when his powers were being stripped away from him by force, when he had no choice in that matter whatsoever, is kind of fucked up. So I really unless they're oh, actually these were all clones of your friends, the other ones we locked in a room so they couldn't intervene or something, that's the only answer I think they could have.
Yeah. So if it turns out it is all deception, there better be mad apologies coming because, and it's I know that we have made
you all have to stroke it once. I'm putting my foot down. You don't.
Is I'm your sister.
I said once.
That makes it okay.
Not related by blood.
I know that we have made New Exorcist a massive punching bag on this show, but at the same time, I feel like it's better than this. This is the thing. I don't know what's going on with it. I legitimately think that Kota Koei has some potential as a mangaka. We have seen that he is capable of some really weirdly cool monster designs. And I don't know, I feel like we have been seeing it jump from story beat to story beat really, really rapidly. I don't know if that is because it is staring down cancellation and needs to rapidly go through this. I don't know if it's actually a consequence of Kuwei getting tired of certain story beats really, really quickly. And I don't know if it's actually just like, bad like editorial decisions. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if he's like being given bad advice in,
Yeah, somebody's
jumping
like,
around
"Oh,
like
let's
this.
shift things around. Let's change things up." Like, I don't know. At this point, I've kind of just come to accept this is New Sexorcist's pace, and this is just what we're gonna get from it, which is wild, spontaneous changes. Like, you would not surprise me if next week Gakuro has all of his powers back. That like he
Oh,
meets.
I'm glad it all worked out.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I found a box with all of my powers in it, and it's back." like it wouldn't shock me.
All right.
You know what though? I'll say this. I'm very glad we had this chapter because part of me is like, oh, I hope this isn't like kind of a lame ending to the podcast because this isn't a particularly notable chapter of Akane-banashi to end on. But the new Exorcist gave enough good energy that it's like, all right, let's talk about a little Akane-banashi and get out of here.
Right. Yeah. Let's wrap things up. We got a Akane-banashi story 209. I believe in.
Santa Christ.
Apparently, I've got a picture of oh gosh, Kaisei. I forgot all characters' names except for New Sexorcist because I got so hard locked in on that. But yeah, he's in a color page, and there's a good cat curled up next to him. Ain't that nice? Kaisei's approach to doing God of This is much more like, kind of like just explaining things because he has to explain why he is doing a little bit of a twist on the story. He says there are some parts of the story that tend to be static, one of which is abandonment. Once the man has a full purse, he turns his back on his wife and child and switches over to a newer, younger woman. You've never heard what happens to such a man already. You have heard what happens to such a man already, rather. But as the saying goes, blood is thicker than water. It's simply the way of the world that the struggles that define the parent are often inherited by the child. And so he launches into his rendition of the story, which is instead of focusing on the father, focuses on the son, who has like inherited debt and stuff from their father, and so is dealing with all of the problems of like debt collectors and everything. And the child gets the younger person gets fed up and says, maybe I should just die. But the problem is how to do it. And then he picks up his fan to act out the part of the god of death, whose appearance we don't see. We just see Kaisei's form in silhouette as the god of death introduces himself. Iken, who's observing things, he also narrates some explanations here, saying like he has altered this to be about the man's son, the man struggling with debt, about his son, taking the plot of the existing god of death and spinning it into something new, an adapted version. Which of course we know that Kaisei's own personal history is that when he was growing up, he and his mother were constantly being harangued by debt collectors. So clearly there's a lot of like personal twists being applied to this story. So Iken notes that like this is like within the proper breadth of like the arrangement. It's not going too out there, and it suits a second half performer because like now like you don't want to just tread over the exact same ground, but their minds still cannot wipe away the image of Akane Arakawa's god of death, and we still see the like this spectral image of that weird doll-like, childlike god of death is still looming over the whole audience. So we have Kaisei, reflecting on, what's going on with him, which is that like, hey, I've had a failed Shinichi promotion, a young star showing the first signs of flagging. We've got, on the other hand, the winner of the Zuyun Prize, a rising talent coming into her own, placed together in a situation that makes them equals, judged under the harsh lens of an elite audience, seemingly all designed to derive an answer to one question: who is the foremost young Rakugoka in Japan? My name is what represents me. If I lose myself, but I won't lose anymore. And he thinks back to when he was young and he had the debt collectors after him when he was just a kid. I won't let them take from me. That's why I chose this path for myself. And then we get him approaching Isho as a kid, wanting to be trained as a Rakugoka. So, he thinks to himself that he still has moves to play, and he goes through his head like all these different like techniques that he's added to his arsenal. So he's got like songs and dance and ad libs and crowd work and everything, and he's like, I've still got something I can do. There has to be something. But then as he's going over the options, he thinks about his mother, who just says, "You'll be all right." A lone butterfly traveled across the Tatar Strait. That's a very famous one-line poem by the title of Haru, or Spring. It speaks of the strength of a tiny butterfly crossing the treacherous sea. It doesn't sound like me, does it? Believe it or not, your mom did a lot of studying. Your name, Haru Ome, came from that poem. You're going to be all right, Haru. You can get past any challenge. And at that moment, the cruise ship that they're on, the clouds begin to part. So the massive lightning storm that was going on during Akane's performance has gentled, and day is breaking. Kaisei recalls what Isho told him, which was, "What will you express? What do you want to say through Rakugo?" And Kaisei thinks, "I'm not the version of me that matches your ideals anymore. I believe in the course I've traveled. I express myself, and with everything that I have, I will cross this sea." And when he plays the boy, greeting the god of death, Kaisei on the stage is drawn as the young version of himself.
Yeah, I do like the twist that his version of the God of Death is going to focus more on the young boy abandoned in the story. And in that way, there is going to be not, a one for one or anything, but a sort of semi autobiographical aspect to his interpretation of the God of Death. And I think there is something interesting in that. I do want to kind of know a little bit more about how Kaisei grew up, what it was kind of the situation before he came into Isho's care and everything like that. But there is still not a ton of meat to this chapter. It's mostly a transitionary one into, hey, Akane has told her story, and now Kaisei is going to start telling his.
Yep. It seems like we're being prepared in, say, the terms of like maybe Kaisei's angle is going to be making the protagonist of the story more vivid and sympathetic. Because Akane, of course, the star of her performance was the actual god of death. But her interaction with it, we were seeing like, Akane interacting with the god of death. So if Kaisei is able to evoke like, hey, maybe he'll have an evocative god of death and an evocative protagonist, and maybe that could be his path to winning this.
Yeah, very much so. But that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week,
Yes.
everybody. Let's talk about our favorites and MVPs.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that my favorite series this week was probably probably Animal Signal, I want to say. I don't think that there were a lot of like bad chapters or anything this week. There were a lot of things that were at the very least noteworthy. But it felt like, that was a very strong opening to the series, and it was the one that stood out the most to me.
Awesome. I'm going to give my series of the week to Kinato's Magic, which I really enjoyed and I found a lot of fun humor in. But my MVP is going to be Kokone from Animal Signal, because as you mentioned, really, really good opening chapter, and there was a lot to enjoy in it.
And I think that I am going to probably just flip-flop things with you because I am picking Tarasu from Kinato's Magic for my MVP.
Very fair. And the audience, by the way, picked Animal Signal as the series of the week, and then Fujimine from Ichi the Witch won character of the week.
Yeah. Obviously, everyone should know that, like, whenever I say an MVP in these last several weeks, so it's like Fujimine is the actual one, but, like, that's just kind of like the given. Like, I can't just give her the award every week.
Nick doesn't want to repeat that many weeks in a row, so.
Yeah, so. All right, guys, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. So thank you all for joining us for the show. Thank you for listening. We have more episodes of Weekly Manga Recap at weeklymangarecap.podbean.com in audio form, as well as on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast feeds. We also have video versions of it on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap, with an opening sequence done by Milo Jack Stillitz and Bree Cheddar, and occasionally title cards by Steve Man, whose work you can check out by just searching for Steve Man Art. He is posted in many places across the internet. We have a Discord server, which is linked basically wherever you can find the podcast. Use that to join our community. There are discussions whenever the chapters get uploaded every week. There's a section where you can make recommendations for a future series for us to talk about, and there's also a link to the Google Drive doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i and keeps track of like all the series voting and the favorites and the MVPs and all that stuff, as well as previous recommendations that we have taken. We are on social media. I am Nick F. Time. Quinn is Rolo T. And we also have just a weekly manga recap, and then WMR votes if you want to make your voice heard for what your MVP choice and your favorite series choice are week to week. That's all on BlueSky, by the way. And last but not least, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/weekly manga recap if you want to get some more weekly manga recap content and also help financially to support the show.
All right. That is going to do it, everybody. We're going to head out of here from Weekly Manga Recap, but next time when we come back, we're going to have a manga recommendation to talk about.
Yes.
New series probably to talk about. Formula One, pretty exciting. And you know what? I'm going to say this now. Next week, we're both going to be wearing silly hats. Unless I forget.
Mine might be invisible.
We're both going to be wearing invisible silly hats next week.
Yes.
All right. Catch you next time, everybody. Bye.